Isn't it about time for somebody's favorite radio program?
This is America's Outdoor Talk program.
Are you ready to get rowdy?
Outdoors This Week with your host, Alex Langer. Alex Langer. We've got fishing.
Believe me, folks, I have been there, and the fishing has been tremendous.
Hiking.
Adios. Have a nice trip.
Camping.
This is a real adventure.
How do you know?
When you're an experienced woodsman like me, you get a feel for these things.
Oh, really?
Heck, we've even got kayaking.
I'm going to show you kids the time of your life.
We've got all the info you need for a safe and fun day in the sun.
It's a darn good thing we found you when we did. There's something horrible roaming these woods.
And you've got Outdoors This Week. Outdoors This Week. And now, here's your host, Alex Langer.
Why, thank you, Mr. Announcer. That would be me. I, in fact, am Alex Langer. Thank you for listening to us today, and 1,000 welcomes. We have an absolutely stunning show for you today. We have two legends. When I say two legends, I really mean two legends. First of all, we have Tim Scott, who in my Rolodex is simply known as Mr. Catfish. If you had a reverb, Lynn, I'd ask you to put it on right. Mr. Catfish. Fish. So he's with us today. Tim hails from the southern part of Illinois. He is one of the principals of the Professional Catfishing Association, and he's been fishing exclusively for cats for more than 20 years. Now, I assume it's catfish, Lynn, right? Not cats.
Yeah, it better not be cats.
It better not be cats, or we'll have big problems.
Big
problems. And he's been guiding clients who want to catch big channel cats on the Illinois River and its tributaries. Tim tells us that if you're after giant blues or flatheads, say that 5 times fast.
I can't say it once.
Go with one of the Pro Cat guides. And if you want fast action, if you want to learn how to fish, battling cats up to 20 pounds, go with him for a day and expect lots of intense action. In fact, he guarantees a certain number of fish to anybody that uses him as a guide. So he can be seen in numerous publications like Field and Stream Outdoor Life, North American Fisherman, and his videos includes Channel Cats of Summer. I think I've seen that video. It's a sexy video. Amazon Cats, that's another sexy video. And the Xingu River and the NAFC hardcover book called Secrets of the Catfish Pros. Tim has spent more than a decade studying catfish behavior, flatheads, channel cats, blues, etc. He's Mr. Catfish. That's all I can tell you. And next we have Doug Hannon. Doug is the bass professor. See, I told you, we have nothing but legends here. He is an author, he's an inventor, and he's caught over 800 10-pound plus largemouth bass. That in itself is amazing, and publishes Hannon Moon Times nationally for TV, magazine, and newspapers, and radio. He's never offered Hannon Moon Times to us. Maybe we're not big enough, Lynn. Do you ever think of that?
I don't know.
Maybe we're too small for Doug. Maybe we're too small for Mr. Hannon. And then, of course, we have usual suspects like Ron Lindner and you know the rest.
Yeah.
And our Southern gentlemen. So I won't repeat their names, or Lynn will get hot and bothered. And we'll be right back. Don't go away.
Hang tight. More of America's Outdoor Talk program, Outdoors This Week, after this.
Ron Linder here for Linder's Angling Edge Television, seen every Saturday, Sunday, and other days of the week on various channels across the country, WFN being one of them, the Cornerstone Christian Network for other ones, the Legacy channels up north. We're on Fox Sports, various channels, so we're on, and then we're on a lot of broadcast channels as well. Also on the Tough TV network on 42 of those channels. So you can see us. Go look us up on the web at Linder's Angling Edge and find the time, date, place, or at 3:30 Saturday Eastern Time. You can go on the web at CTNV. Go CTNV or VN, CTVN network, and you can watch us streaming 3:30 p.m. on Saturday afternoons Eastern Standard Time. Anyway, I'm in a boat with Dick Sternberg, a biologist and eminent authority on invasive species. Invasive species. Now, we're down in Florida. Of course, they've got so many invasive species down here. They don't even get excited about it. But up north, where I live, they are really starting to... in fact, Lindner Media has, along with Dick here, are in the process of doing a video for the state exploring invasive species. Perhaps one of the most prominent ones at this particular time is the zebra mussel, or the quagga mussel, which is all over the Great Lakes. It's in Minnesota now. It's in the Mississippi River by my home. That means it's going to go everywhere. And what they do is, at the beginning, they clear the water. They have cleared Lake Erie beyond anything the EPA ever intended to do with $18 zillion. They did in about 5 years. Of course, that's the good side of it. The bad side of it is they continue, they eat too much. They eat the good green algae, and they spit out the bad blue-green algae, which can be poisonous. It can be toxic to ducks. It gives them avian botulism. So there's good and bad, and of course they compete directly with the small species, these little veligers, that's the little zebra mussels. They just eat plankton. They're just a plankton eater. And of course, that isn't the end or the beginning of it. We've got these silver carp. Maybe you've seen movies of them with them jumping all over the place where you drive to an area, these 20, 30, 40, 50-pound fish leap in the air 5, 6 feet high and literally hit people and knock them out of the boat. We found out that silver carp could be canned, though, and maybe somebody's got to learn to do something with it because they're supposed to be good flesh without the bones. But we've got things like rusty crays. These are rusty crayfish, and they're weed eaters. Once they get in the lake out there, you've got these beautiful weed beds of cabbage that all the fish live in. And at some point, they eat eggs, by the way, fish eggs, and they will come down and they'll chop down a forest of weeds, just like a bunch of lumberjacks coming into an area. I mean, they'll whack off. We've got lakes in Minnesota where the rusties have gotten in, and you haven't got a stick of weed anymore. I mean, gone. They ate them all. The good part is, after they eat them all, the population crashes because they've got no more food. They ate them out of house and home. And it takes a long time, though. It makes fish management well nigh impossible. And they've got things like spiny water fleas, which catch all over your line when you're trolling. I'm not even naming all the bad ones. I'm just naming the ones that kind of aggravate the fishermen. And there's all kinds of invasive species down in Florida here. Of course, we've got the pythons, the Burmese pythons that are, they're all over the Everglades. They made it with the local population, and that's something else again. So anyway, we got invasive species. I sit in the boat here with Dick, and Dick is answering calls from around the nation. People calling him all the time. I get the secondhand parts. I hear one part of these conversations about it, but it is big and it is nationwide. Actually, it's continent-wide because it goes all the way up into Canada, right down to Mexico. And I don't know how badly it has hit out east in the eastern area. Because you got hit with milfoil down there, European milfoil, so you've already tasted some of this stuff. But when these zebra mussels get in the lake, like in Lake Huron, they have literally made the thing crystal clear. Lake Erie, they called it the Dead Sea. It was so dark and dirty and dingy. You could see 20 foot straight down. This is what the zebra mussels. That's the good side. The bad side is that they're expelling the blue-green algae, which is toxic to birds. And they eat it, they get avian botulism. So we just got to keep on looking at it. Are there answers? I don't know. They're looking at them. There's got to be some kind of answer to someplace. Maybe the Lord will help us. I don't know. As before, maybe that's all. Maybe that's the only place we can go now. Well, that's it for now. So see you later, folks.
Fishy fish, I love to fish on the lake.
This is America's Outdoor Talk program.
You're famous for being a fishing educator.
With Alex Langer.
Get a little chance to go outdoors.
Hello. Hello. Hello.
Now, back to Outdoors This Week. Here's your host, Alex Langer.
Why, thank you, Mr. Announcer. I am very, very excited to have our next guest with us. In my iPhone, he's simply known as Mr. Catfish. That's all I have in there, Mr. Catfish. His name, of course, is Tim Scott. He is one of the founders of the Professional Catfishing Association, and he's been fishing for cats for more than 20 years. That's catfish, not cats, right, Lynn?
Yeah, I don't think he actually fishes for cats.
If he did, that would be something.
We'd have to have PETA here.
We would. And he's been guiding clients who want to catch big channel cats in the Illinois River and its tributaries. Tim tells us that if you're after giant blues or flatheads, go with him or one of the other Pro Cat guides. If you want fast action and want to watch and learn by battling cats up to 20 pounds, go with him for a day and expect lots of intense action. Now, Tim, that's a big claim. Is it true?
As a matter of fact, when I take clients out, we got to catch 25 fish over 5 pounds, between 5 and 20 on a channel cat trip, or they don't have to pay me.
You do that?
I guarantee 25 fish. Yes, I do.
How do you stay in business?
Alex, I think I've given away maybe 3 free trips in 10 years.
Really? The rest of the time you always scored?
Always. It's up to me to decipher what the fish are doing and present the bait right where they're at. If the fish aren't moving, I got to go to them. If they're moving, I got to know it so I can set up in ambush areas. I also have to keep my patterns. I've got patterns A to Z, and I move through them quickly until I find results, and I call it listening to the fish.
The Lindners used to do that like 40 or 50 years ago, but that was 40 or 50 years ago. And
right.
You're fishing on public waters, rivers where anybody else can fish, and not on little tiny lakes where God knows anything could happen.
Right. Anything sometimes does. I mean, there's been many times where I've barely eked out 25 fish because it was tough. But there's been days when we caught 200 fish, too.
Wow. What about this heat wave that's been going from the middle of the country all the way to the east? It's like summer came overnight. It went from winter to summer.
Right. And we've had that weather around here for about 2.5 weeks. And, I've had a flurry of calls, everybody wanting to know if they should go or, take a trip or anything like that, and I've been through this, Indian summer, I guess that's what you call it in the fall, but now we've got this fall summer, and as luck would have it, nature built in a safeguard. And the safeguard is it really doesn't matter a whole lot what the temperature does in the beginning of the year. The pre-spawn migration is controlled about 85% by the amount of daylight and the amount of daylight alone. You can have 65-degree water temperature before April 15th, and channel cats are still hanging around their wintering holes.
I mean, the temperature doesn't affect rivers quite as much as it affects small lakes anyway, right?
No, absolutely. Here's the thing. A small lake, you're, just say a 1-acre farm pond, you're going to be throwing baits with where the catfish are anyway. And you get into a river situation and you have, say, 50 miles of river. And in the wintertime, catfish are relegated to, 5% or under 5% of the water because, there's only so many areas that are acceptable for them to winter in.
Tim, hold that thought. And when we come back, I want to ask you more about this. So don't go away. We'll be right back after this very, very important message in the news.
More of America's favorite outdoor talk program, Outdoors This Week, after these messages.
It takes a whole lot of fishing to do a little bit of catching. It takes a whole lot of fishing.
Fly fishing for reds coming up on Bass Pro Shops Outdoor World.
Would you like to spend less time on the couch and more time in the fresh air? Would you like your kids to stare at a bobber instead of the TV? Would you gladly trade in your microwave for a Dutch oven? Then you belong at Bass Pro Shops. Every week, we offer free skills workshops to help you get started. See the store or go to BassPro.com for more information. Bass Pro Shops. Your adventure starts here.
From Massachusetts to Key West, Florida, and around the rim of the Gulf of Mexico, fly fishing for redfish is becoming more and more popular. Like most shallow water species, redfish follow the tide up into grassy flats and marshes in search of food. They're found over all types of bottoms, but seem to prefer areas with submerged vegetation and soft mud in which they can root for crustaceans and other morsels. Redfish will feed in water just inches deep, and tailing activity is most common at dawn and dusk. Other hot spots can include mangroves, oyster beds, and the muddy areas around jetties and pier railings. Adult redfish are voracious feeders, snacking mostly on crabs, shrimp, and baitfish. Lightly weighted flies that you can hop along the bottom work well. There are lots of redfish-specific patterns, and clouser minnows and deceivers tied to imitate local baitfish work well too, as do spoon flies in grassy areas. I'm Larry Whiteley, and this is Bass Pro Shops Outdoor World.
Lynn, did I mishear Larry? Did he say from Massachusetts to the Gulf?
Yes, he did.
Wow, I think we caught him in an error.
Yeah.
I haven't seen any redfish up here, unless I'm totally mistaken, Lynn. I'll deal with Larry on that next time I see him. I'll go easy on him because he is a Southern gentleman.
He is a gentleman.
I understand that. So, speaking of Southern gentlemen, we have Tim Scott with us, who is not a Southern gentleman. He may be a gentleman, but he's not from the South. He is from the Midwest, however. And we're just in the middle of discussion about catfish. You know, we of course know him on this program as Mr. Catfish, and that's how he's known in my cellular phone. We've been talking about the season. What kind of location are the fish in pre-spawn right now?
Well, if you're in a part of the country that doesn't have high water, if the water's normal level, they haven't really moved very far from their wintering holes, and even if the water temperature is 60 degrees, what water temperature does is water temperature affects the activity level. That means their willingness to feed. So if I go into a wintering area in a warm a warm period of water temperature, just say we've had warm weather for 2 weeks, actually about 2.5 weeks, and you throw some baits out and you're going to get a lot of fast action. Whereas if it were still cold, like it usually is in March, the action will be a lot slower. But as far as the movement from wintering areas spreading throughout the river and moving up tributaries to spawn, that hasn't happened yet.
You know those grabblers that just grab those big cats?
I've learned to appreciate them for what they do. I don't hate them. I actually just don't agree with pulling a male fish that's protecting eggs off of the beds. That's what I don't really agree with. There's been a few shows, and I actually watch them. I talk to a few noodlers around the country, and there's some appreciation there. I don't despise them. I just kind of wish that it wasn't such the case, because I believe that if people were doing that with smallmouth, that would be illegal.
You're right. Why do you think it's accepted for catfish but not other fish? My uncle in Germany used to catch trout like that. He used to go into small streams,
sure,
stick his hands in a root ball, and God love him, he'd come up with a trout.
Sure, and that would be highly illegal today. And
I think it was highly illegal back when he did it about 20 or 30 years ago. Everything's illegal in Germany.
Yeah, well, I would imagine. Now, think of this, Alex. If baby seal looked like catfish, you could probably still go and club them.
That's probably true.
If Bambi looked like a catfish, you could probably do anything you wanted to him. It just depends on what group of people decides that an animal is worthy of protection.
Right. What species of catfish are these people after that are grabbling?
Well, they're actually all three. They've got that one show on, Hillbilly Hand Fishing. They're after flatheads. According to the television show, you cannot keep a blue cat if you noodle one.
Really? You got to let them go right away.
Yes. Now, that could be because maybe the population isn't very healthy in where they're fishing. Maybe it's just the Red River. I don't know about the regulations in Oklahoma. But I do know one thing. I have learned a few things about the spawn period, because I usually don't fish I don't fish for the fish into water underneath rocks, holes, and stuff like that during the height of the July 4th. So I have learned a few things from watching that show, and I'm actually amazed. I don't know what that river situation is, why there's large blue cats in 4 feet of water in a really shallow river. I don't know if they get trapped there when the water goes down or what the deal is, but you don't see that in the middle of Illinois.
They're catching blue cats where they shouldn't be, right?
Well, absolutely. Not necessarily where they shouldn't be. Maybe they're always like that on the Red River in Oklahoma. But, you can go to the Wabash, you can go to the Mississippi, you can go to a lot of places with blues, and you're not going to find hardly any blues in less than 10 foot of water.
Really? These are hillbilly catfish, right?
Well, I don't know what the situation is. I suppose I'd have to talk with Skipper Bivens and whoever else is, running that thing. But
yeah.
It's just been pretty amazing to me to see blue cats in 3.5 foot of water up by a root ball. Now, I know they like cover, but in my territory, if you want to catch 50-pound blues, you better be fishing 20 feet or more, 20 to 40 feet. And, there's a very few, and you'll use the same bait you do for channel cats in shallow water and catch channel cats. Use, the same bait you catch with swifter water and you'll catch blues. Their habitats don't intersect as much, and, that's kind of the way nature designed them.
Right. What's your favorite species of catfish, if I may be so bold as to ask you that?
My favorite is definitely flatheads. They're big, they're aggressive, and they're beautiful ugly.
They are ugly, aren't they?
You know what, though? I was the kind of kid that when when I watched the show King Kong versus Godzilla, right, I rooted for Godzilla.
Wow.
I like dinosaurs. I like big snapping turtles. The uglier, the bigger, the meaner, the better. That's been since I was 4 years old. The amazing thing about what's going on with channel cats right now is, channel cats and blues. Flatheads, of course, are still, and we were talking about my favorite fish, which is flatheads, because they are aggressive and they do get really big. And I just think they're a neat fish. They're really territorial. They're very aggressive towards each other, and they dominate certain pieces of cover, which allows me to go in and present baits in the correct place and catch 50 to 70 pounders. I've caught them up to 90, 95 pounds.
Wow.
But a 70 pounder is approximately, we catch about maybe 3 to 4 70 pounders a year. The bulk is going to be 30 pounds, 30 to catch quite a few 50s. A few 60s and a few 70s, and, maybe once every 2 or 3 years an 80 or 90. If your viewers are watching the show Hillbilly Hand Fishing, most of the fish that they're catching that are really big, they're just guesstimating the weight, and in my estimation, they're guessing them a bit high. So, if you see a really big fish, it's 45 or 50 pounds. So, a 70 or 80, is a fish.
Tim Scott, thank you for sharing with us, and we got to go right now. That's it, Tim. Thank you for being on with us.
Well, thanps for having me on, Alex.
All right, you take care.
Coast to coast, this is Outdoors This Week with Alex Langer.
Fishing man.
Springtime is crappie time on a lot of U.S. waters. Many anglers use small plastic tube jigs to catch these fish. These jigs come in a rainbow of colors and combinations. How do you decide which one to use? What are some parameters for deciding which colors the fish may bite the best? I'm Wade Bourne, and this is Wired to Fish Radio. Day crappie expert TJ Stalling says you have to match your color choice to the water conditions you're fishing.
Stay with us. Wade will be right back.
Cabela's is the world's foremost outfitter for hunting, fishing, camping, and outdoor gear. They offer more gear than anybody, best selection, prices, and quality, all backed by Cabela's legendary guarantee. Shopping with Cabela's has never been easier or more convenient. You can outfit all your needs through Cabela's catalogs, website, and their many stores. Check them out at Cabela's.com. Cabela's, the world's foremost outfitter. For a day at the range, it's hard to beat an accurate pistol and lots of .22 long rifle ammunition. Folks at Smith & Wesson couldn't agree more. And the new M&P 22 pistol fits the bill perfectly. The M&P 22 combines the look, feel, and familiar operating features of the trusted M&P series of centerfire pistols. The M&P 22 is perfect for training or simple shooting enjoyment. To learn more about this new M&P rimfire pistol, visit www.smith-wesson.com.
This is Wired to Fish Radio.
TJ Stallings publishes an online crappie magazine called CrappieNow.com, and he's more than avid about catching these fish. Recently, TJ and I talked about jig colors for crappie, and he told me these fish are very color specific, or make that very shade specific. For instance, he said in clear water, he likes a tube jig that's translucent and maybe has some sparkle in it.
Usually a clear color, like a watermelon with glitter or a chartreuse clear with glitter, will work in those conditions. Now, it's not to say that they don't work in any other conditions, it's just they work better. Now, if those same conditions darkened up, if it got cloudy, you'd probably see me go to an opaque color like a white, or maybe a white chartreuse combination, and that chartreuse would be opaque instead of clear. And then if the water got darker because of a rain or some other condition, or the water was muddier further up the lake, then when I'm not opposed to putting black out there either. Black's been a real good color for us this past 2 years.
So pick a color that matches the water conditions you're fishing, then experiment with different colors in that category, translucent or opaque. Then if the watercolor changes, change jig colors again to match. And that's today's Wired to Fish Radio. I'm Wade Bourne saying thanks for listening. Get outside.
Thanks, Wade. And we have a legend with us today, and he is an author, an inventor, and he's also ESPN's bass professor. Of course, that could be none other than Doug Hannon. He's been entered into the Fishing Hall of Fame as a legendary angler in 2000, having caught over 800 10-pound-plus largemouth bass. Doug Hannon produced 3 videos for 3M, Understanding Bass, Catching Big Bass, and Bass Formula for Success. Among them, he won Clio and Teddy Awards. He publishes Doug Hannon Moon Times nationally for newspapers and TV and radio, and he is on the masthead of Outdoor Life magazine. But I think what he's most proud of, he holds 12 U.S. patents on various fishing inventions, and he is the inventor of the legendary weedless fishing trap. And none other than Doug Hannon is with us today. Doug, first of all, welcome to the show. And
thank you, Alex.
And what's with this weather, Doug?
Isn't it wonderful? This is crazy, isn't it? It's 85 degrees. I'm looking at my thermometer on my porch right now. And, of course, I'm in Florida. But you know what? It's pushing 80 up there to watch for tornadoes, because you got the cold air close to you. And when that pushes down and that warm air mixes, it gets nasty. In the meantime, it affords us some fishing opportunities. Of course it does.
How does this kind of warm weather affect bass this early in the year?
Well, of course it affects them, because that's where they live. And, they're a cold-blooded creature. They adapt to the temperature of their environment, and the water's getting warm. It's got to be getting warm up there, pushing 70 anyway. Well, I don't know what it is, but I'll bet with all that I've heard from going on, and even with Russ Riley, our manager for Wavespin up in Michigan, they're pushing 80 degrees up there. And when that happens, fish are going to go into pre-spawn, because what's their deal? They need to pass their DNA on. They need to make life happen for future generations, and that's what all of the wild creatures do. So that's what they're doing. They're looking at spawning. And they might be wrong, but if they're wrong, we just have to take advantage of it, because they're going to be doing the things that they do when they're right, okay? And that is trying to get ready to spawn. What you all need to do up there in Massachusetts, because you live in a area where big bass grow in the north, and I can tell you that from the times that I won the Field and Stream contest 4 years for the biggest bass in the country. And but we had northern bass and southern bass in classes. And every time I ever saw anything, any of these contest results, it was the northern bass was always one in Massachusetts. You have marsh, you have swamp, you have shallow water conditions that respond to the temperatures of the environment. So it warms up quick, it cools off quick, but the bass react to that.
And we have Cape Cod, which there's a microclimate in Cape Cod. The last place the Gulf Stream touches the East Coast before it shoots off in the North Atlantic is the Cape.
Goes all the way to Oslo, Norway. You're right.
Right. I've caught 6, 7, 8, and 9 pound bass on Cape Cod every year.
Yeah.
Back when I was a kid.
Exactly. And these are, you have the conditions that make for 12-pound bass. Massachusetts, by the way, and y'all should be proud of it, have the largest state record of anything north of Mason-Dixon, and that's a 15.5-pound largemouth bass. And that's incredible. It goes beyond my ability to explain it, except to say that it's because of those conditions where you have shallow, swampy, marshy weather. I went to school in New England. I went to school in Byfield, Massachusetts.
Really?
And
that's just up the road, Doug.
Plum Island and Newburyport, and it's marsh. It's really like Florida had somehow got broke off and stuck up there somewhere in New England, and it makes the biggest bass in the whole Northeast come from your state.
Well,
you all are blessed with that.
Thank you for that. And the old clock on the wall says we got to go. Would you come back and join us again?
Of course I would. Did I talk myself out of existence here?
No, I don't think you did. But
all right. Well, we'll be back.
All right. Thanks a lot.
We'll talk about big bass and mass. Okay.
All right.
Alex Langer, Outdoors This Week.